Well, good afternoon, financial professionals. My name is Brendan Derone, Managing Partner and Chief Distribution Officer here at E4 Insurance Services. I'm filling in for John Florence today, and I'm welcoming you to the Brew, building relationships every week or every Wednesday, depending on which W is your favorite. Thanks for tuning in. On today's Brew, we welcome back E4 Insurance Services Vice President of Institutional Accounts, Steve Walker. Steve will discuss with the attendees a case study that started as one opportunity for key person insurance and how that conversation transitioned into personal estate planning meeting. Stay tuned and learn how to make one opportunity into 2, 3, or maybe even more. Feel free to use the chat box with your thoughts or ask questions. Also, all attendees are in a drawing for a CE voucher and Starbucks gift card. We will be announcing that winner at the end. So with that, Steve, I'm going to hand it to you.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And like Brendan talked about, one of the big things and value adds that I really enjoy about being a part of the E4 team is we're not a transactional business or organization. We want to help you as the advisors we work with, ultimately help the clients that you have and that trust in you to make sure that they're getting the optimal advice and not just taking orders. Anybody can be a transactional salesperson, but really we're very fortunate to work with great advisors that want to make sure that their clients' full pictures are taken care of. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that looks, as well as a case study, as Brendan mentioned. So I'm going to share my screen as we get started here. And as it shows here, I'm just going to kind of flip through a PowerPoint and discuss. As Brendan mentioned, if there's any questions, feel free, type them in, come off mute. We'll make sure this is fun and exciting. So really wanting to look at not just solving an initial need. A customer comes to you and says, hey, I need this. Again, any order taker can do that, but are you really truly doing your job as the advisor? And how do we create multiple opportunities from one? So as we get started, quick disclaimer. Again, myself, E4, we do not provide legal or tax advice, and this is meant to be for advisor use and education only as we go through today. So looking at the points that we'll talk about today, even before we get to the case study, we're going to talk about the role of an advisor. Again, how do our financial advisors, investment or wealth managers, insurance agents, whatever your title is, what is your role? Ultimately helping be an advisor for that client. Talk about the difference between selling products and creating solutions. How can E4 come alongside you and add value? Again, we're very thankful for the partnerships that we have, and how can we continue to make your life insurance, annuity, long-term care, disability business a more meaningful part of your practice. And then again, don't stop at the initial sale, and then we'll get into our case study. So really, as we begin, we're going to talk about the importance of the advisor role, and it all starts with knowing your client. So again, in this real planning business, versus transactional and just taking orders, you want to understand your clients, know their assets, their liabilities, and their income. Their goals and concerns, even more so important, because again, if we don't know the backstory or the why behind the why, all the numbers on a spreadsheet aren't going to make a big difference. Secondly, I believe it's really up to advisors to ask great questions, because again, if we're having a conversation going both ways, it's not just a one-way dialogue. You want to ask great questions to help those clients uncover the potential needs that they have, really helping them understand there might be a problem, or maybe there's a goal that they want to achieve. So then as you continue down the path, again, it's helping, it shows here, creating solutions, in order to achieve a goal or mitigate a concern. So again, it's no longer, you're not selling insurance. Insurance isn't your plan, and that's something we talk about quite often, but insurance can help fund somebody's plan. So again, whether it's protecting income or a long-term care event, estate taxes, key person, whatever that is, before we go with a product, we need to understand what problem are we helping solve. Sometimes this is going to involve insurance, and we can certainly help with that, as can you. But not always. Again, there's going to be certain times, and part of the solution is going to involve getting an attorney involved. Maybe there's some planning techniques that can be done even outside of insurance. Then once we create those solutions, keep asking more great questions, because again, in the spirit of today, not necessarily the national days, but the focus today, creating multiple opportunities. Don't just stop once you meet that first need. Continue to ask more questions and figure out how you can help even further. So now, really talking about, as an advisor, are you selling products, or are you helping create solutions for those clients that hopefully you care about and want to see be successful as we move forward? So, in my opinion, as we look at the difference, if you're selling products, think of, really, I'm meeting with that client, probably that ideal client. Maybe you sat down with a business partner, or even maybe an RVP here at E4, looked through and found that ideal client profile. Because again, we want to have those solutions and opportunities to meet with our clients, but that's not the main focus of starting the meeting. Because when I'm selling products, I've got that ideal client. I'm talking about an idea or a concept. Here's how using key person life insurance can be of value. Here's how an irrevocable life insurance trust helps you do X. And really, you're finding, then, after you've talked about the idea, you're finding a goal or concern to make that fit. Essentially going in reverse order from a true planning, or in the bottom here, creating solutions mentality. You're starting with you're leading with the end in mind, where when you're an advisor creating that solution, again, you're still meeting with that great client, but rather than talking about the idea, talk about them. What are their goals? What are their concerns? What makes them tick? And once you've got an understanding of those things, then we can create a concept or a plan to help address those needs. So before we get into the case study, really working with E4, and this is something we talk about, and I know I've talked with the great advisors that I work with. We've got 3 ways that we can work with you as advisors. First, we can support you. We can be your silent, out of sight, out of mind back office. Help put together illustrations, help with processing and the underwriting, and so on and so forth. But really, just be that back office support for you. We can work with you, and in the case study we'll talk about today, that's kind of the mindset that we went with, where the advisor brought myself in as a partner and a specialist with him, with a long-term client relationship that he already has. And really, the goal of that working with you mentality is, again, bring us in as a partner or a specialist on the topic. We'll lead the meeting, lead that discussion, and help meet those clients' goals, mitigate those risks. And really, from your perspective as the advisor, we're trying to, again, teach you how to fish. We don't necessarily need to be that advisor running the meeting all the time, but as you continue to have those meetings together, you will hopefully, ideally, learn a few things, languages, questions to ask, so on and so forth. Lastly, we can do it for you. If your schedule doesn't allow, or you're just not interested, but your clients have those needs for the products we can help you with, make a warm introduction, and somebody here with E4 will help take care of that client for you.
Steve, do you have a favorite way to work? And do you find that advisors prefer one of those methods versus another?
I really truly enjoy the working with the advisors or the doing it for you. But probably my favorite would be the working with you, helping the clients, while at the same time helping an advisor take their practice to the next level. I think a lot of the advisors I work with really enjoy that. We do have some that do the do it for you model, and it's really just because of more so a lack of time. And in that case, that's the do it for you model, where we do any type of a revenue share, supporting you and working with you. That's what we do to help add value. But if you want to have us take it start to finish, we can certainly do that as well. But I think really having that mindset of we want to be a partner for all the advisors that we work with. We don't want to be just a vendor. We want to be a true partner that is a meaningful part of everybody's business.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So now as we move on, lastly, before we get into our case study, again, don't just stop with one yes. Again, if you meet that first need, you filled a gap, you've helped that client in some way, shape, or form. But what if we didn't have that discussion about your client dying too soon or living too long and running out of retirement assets, getting sick or hurt and can't work? Maybe your client has other needs, like we'll talk about business planning and personal planning. Again, what if you don't address those things? If you don't, who else will? If we don't have that conversation, what happens if you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, one of you died too soon? What kind of impact is that going to have? Because again, there's just not enough good advisors going out asking those questions. And realistically, ask yourself as an advisor, are you giving 100%? Your clients don't know what they don't know. If you don't ask the right questions, don't make the proper recommendations, again, you're not letting those clients make those decisions. Feel free and feel comfortable getting out of your comfort zone. That's one of the things that I would challenge everybody is just continue to ask those questions. It's okay for a client to say no. At least we brought up the opportunity. And again, lastly, sometimes I think advisors don't feel comfortable asking at risk of losing that other sale when it couldn't be further from the truth. Again, after you've helped a client, they obviously trust you enough to buy from you and really put those solutions in place. Think about how can you help them further. So now we're going to talk here for the next little bit on just a case study that we wrapped up partly first quarter of this year, and then the second part actually just last week. But it really started with a 58-year-old business owner. They had reached out to their advisor. As you can see in that second bullet point, the advisor handles the commercial insurance and benefits for their company. Asked the advisor, hey, I need key person insurance. We've got investors in the company. They want to make sure that the investors stay comfortable in the long-term success of the company. And initially, the advisor was thinking, okay, I can certainly help you get some term insurance quotes for $1 million, $2 million. What do you need? And then the conversation quickly turned to a $10 to $20 million need is what the client had thought. So the advisor reached out. We had a conference call with this client because again, it's a larger need than that advisor was necessarily comfortable with discussing. And there's a few other things that we'll talk about that we all uncovered in that first meeting, but ultimately, from that initial need of key person insurance, we ended up placing 15-year level term for $10 million. That $10 million, ultimately, after conversations, was what the company needed if something were to happen, making the investors comfortable. And really, that 58-year-old's got somewhere between 12 and 15 years of runway left before they exit the business. So making sure they had enough coverage for the number of years. It fit the need and hit it, and obviously, as you can see there, resulted in a nice premium case of a little over $21,000 of life insurance premium. So again, that's a nice case. Advisor could have stopped right there and would have been a very successful. It hit exactly what the client needs or it was asking for. But again, during that first meeting, we dug a little bit deeper. And really what we found out was, again, without going into specifics, this client was, what would be considered an ultra high net worth client. He's got current and future federal and estate tax issues just due to the size of his estate. He does have good liquidity, but also has a large amount of illiquid assets as well. And we found out down the road some of those assets that aren't necessarily cash or investments, he's going to sell some of those down the road in the future, which is going to create excess liquidity that he doesn't necessarily need for his lifestyle. So now, again, what kind of opportunities does that open up? Worked with the client, attorney, trust company, and just last week or earlier this week, just finally put the policy in force for another $10 million of coverage, owned by an irrevocable life insurance trust, help create that liquidity, get assets outside of this individual's personal estate. So that $10 million, not only is it income tax free, but it's also not includable in that estate for the client. So again, it's creating that liquidity outside of the estate. We actually structured that in 3 different policies: 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, for different reasoning, which is probably for another call. But they also have, within inside of each of those, have access to up to $1 million of that death benefit for long-term care if needed. So again, part of that reason why we structured it into 3 different policies, to have 3 million of total long-term care availability. So it resulted in a nice, again, annual life premium, $136,000. Again, a very nice case. When we talk about that excess liquidity that's coming up, we also brought up the idea of, with that cash that he's going to have, the idea of being able to fund an annuity to pay those future premiums. Because within the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to have some of that excess liquidity where we can look at a SPIA or some sort of a annuity with a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit, to where we can then back into solving for, hey, how much do we need to put into this annuity to fund this premium for the rest of our life? And then the client has it fully paid up and in that lockbox, 10 million locked in. So again, not only nice sale, another future opportunity as well. And then lastly, one of the other things we found out during that really initial, I think it was probably about a 45 to an hour long interview we had with the client, is in the company there's about 17 employees. Again, getting deep into the conversation, let the client talk about that. Ultimately, the plan is for this client's son to take over the business. And there's at least 5 people within the company that not necessarily there's zero interest in the family giving them any ownership, but they want to make sure that they retain them for the long haul. Again, how do we make sure that we can retain those key people so the business continues to flourish? So that's going to be kind of this list of next opportunities. The 58-year-old business owner is very interested in these next conversations, which are going to include, again, key person insurance on the next generation. Do we need to have a one-way buy-sell agreement? For those other key people, how do we look at executive carve-out planning? Should we have more disability insurance that the company carves out to protect that income? Is there a way to have some non-qualified deferred compensation that gives them that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow after 10, 15, 20 years, to keep them engaged? It's not all about compensation today, but how do we continue to keep those key people engaged? So again, really a fun case to work on, that again started as one opportunity. We've already got 2 pieces that are finished, with more to come, with the potential annuity, as well as the additional business planning opportunities. So not sure if anybody has any questions or thoughts for today, or Brendan, anything like to
yeah, I'm just having a realization here. I mean, had you just been the order taker and provided the 10 million key man coverage, not only might the insured's family be exposed via estate tax, and then ultimately key employees leaving, but so far that went from a $21,000 target to 157, if my mental math is right.
Yep. Yeah. And again, the client was more than happy to write that $20,000 check to protect his business, because he knew that that's what we needed to do. And then again, understanding the goal and the concern of creating that liquidity and not wanting to pay estate taxes, like many individuals, especially business owners, don't want to do. It wasn't so much of, hey, this is $136,000 a year premium. The conversation was more along the lines of, hey, here's how we create this income and estate tax-free bucket of money outside of your taxable estate. So again, it's not asking for premium dollars, it's helping the clients find that way of solving that goal that they had.
And this is a situation where you partnered with the advisor?
Yep, we worked together. The client was alongside it all the way, took the applications. Allison in particular on our new business team did a great job of helping continue those applications through underwriting. We went through the informal process. Our first offer was on the term insurance. We got super preferred. The carrier we ultimately placed the permanent with, we had additional underwriting requirements. So we were actually able to go to them and say, hey, we've already got super preferred at another carrier without additional underwriting requirements. And I think within the next couple of hours of letting them know that, we had a firm super preferred offer without any additional requirements as well. So
I remember that happening, and it was yes, way to leverage one offer into two as well. So nice work there. With that, next week, please remember to join us as we welcome Security Mutual's Regional Vice President, Jeffrey Hale. Jeffrey will share how Security Mutual Life in New York can help energize your practice with value-oriented whole life and holistic underwriting. We'll see you in a week, and thanks for being here, everyone.